Hi, I'm Teja. I'm a developer relations engineer for Harness STO. And in this video, we're going to look how you can create exemption requests for vulnerabilities that are blocking your pipeline. So we're looking how you can actually create exemption requests for the vulnerabilities both at the issue level and at the issue occurrence level. And also we look at the scopes at which you can create the request for, including target, project, and the pipeline. And at the same time, we look at the required permissions that you need for creating these requests. So what you see on the screen is a pipeline which got failed due to a policy enforcement, and you can get in further details by switching it to the policy enforcement tab, where you can see the actual policy set which is failed. And furthermore, you can see the list of all the vulnerabilities that are causing the failure, both at the policy level and eventually the pipeline. So these are the list of vulnerabilities that are causing the failure. And as a developer, mitigating or just making sure these are some of the false positives or can be a considerable risk or can be fixed later, I wanted to create an exemption request for those specific vulnerabilities here in the pipeline failure. So before we go ahead and create an exemption request, let's take a note of this vulnerability and let's go to the vulnerabilities tab for creating the exemption request. So let's go ahead, spot that. You can search it, or in my case, it's just right at the top. You can open up the issue right here. And here are the list of details about the vulnerability, and further you have all the occurrences list. So you can create an exemption request at the issue level by clicking on this button, or you can choose to be more specific by selecting some of the occurrences part of the issue and then request an occurrence exemption. So to do all of this, you need to have specific permissions which are detailed in our developer docs. So here we have the exemption permission matrix, and the one that you require is an action to create an exemption request. So the necessary permissions are the create and edit at the project level. So this should be enough for creating an exemption request right from your vulnerabilities tab. So let's go ahead, create an exemption request, click on the request exemption button. And right here, you just need to provide all these details, starting with setting up the scope. If you choose it to be selected for the target scope, what it means is that this request is to exempt the vulnerability only for this selected target. And the vulnerability remains reported in the other targets or the pipelines. And when you go for this pipeline, where the request is to exempt in this current particular pipeline, and this is still be reported in the other pipelines and the projects. And when you go even broader, choosing to be project, this request is to exempt the vulnerability across all the pipelines and the projects within this project. So choose carefully, as the exemption applies broadly throughout the project. So then you just need to select for how long. It can be 7 days in this case for the demo purpose, or anything that suits your requirement you can choose, and then you can choose the reason. I can choose it to be acceptable risk for the demo, and you can add further comments. Why do you want to have this exempted and all those details? I can just say some details about the issue, and then you can give the URL references if you have any, and then click on create request. This will create an exemption request, and if you have the notification set up, the AppSec users or the configured users will get notified about your request. So in a similar way, you can create occurrence level exemption by clicking on or selecting the specific occurrence as part of the issue, and then click on the request occurrence exemption, and the details remain same. Only the change is that you can only request occurrence level exemption at the target scope. Then you have all the similar details to fill up, and then click on send request. And now to view the exemption request you just created, you can get into the exemption section from the left nav. And right from here, under the pending tab, you should be able to find the exemption request that you just created. And as the time passes and the approvers or the reviewers make necessary actions, you should be able to find this request moving from approved or rejected accordingly. So this is how you can create an exemption request for your vulnerabilities in STO. Thank you.